Welcome everybody to our class on Twitter. A happy World Cup Day and happy Ontario Provincial Election Day. Again, this is Kareem Kanji, your instructor for today. And of course, today it's all about Twitter. Before we begin, a couple of things. Number one, looking forward to receiving your digital book reports. Again, make sure you hand those in a timely fashion. And also remember about your final assignment, which is the social media strategy. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at inspirationbykareem@gmail.com. I do ask for a couple of things when you do email me. Um, I am instructing 3 classes. They're all in the social media marketing course, but I'm doing 1 in class and 2 online. So if you can be specific with me in terms of which online class, and also if you are in the in class, let me know that as well, and be specific again with your questions. That would be great. And finally, do give a few days before you expect an answer. I've got, like many of you, a lot on the go and on my plate. So, Twitter, where shall we begin? I know at least one of you is reading or has read this book, Hatching Twitter, A True Story of Money, Power, Friendship, and Betrayal by New York Times columnist and reporter Nick Bilton. It is a fantastic book. It is quick to go through, probably go through it in a couple of weeks, I would say. Um, and it is a book that was written based upon first-hand interviews and research into the founders and early employees of Twitter. Highly recommend it. I'm not going to leave it there, but this is a fantastic book to read. I wrote it. I read it at the end of last year, and I did a little tiny little book review. This is not, by the way, an example of what your digital report should be. But if you Google how was Twitter founded or the history of Twitter, there are tons of articles. You probably want to get to articles that mention a number of names. So over time, it is understood that Twitter really had a number of founders. There is Ev Williams, who is a founder. This is his picture right here. Ev Williams is also the founder of Blogger, which is now owned by Google, and he's also the founder of Mention. I believe it's not Mention.com. Sorry, yeah, he's also founder of another startup as well. So there's Ev Williams. There is Biz Stone, who worked with Ev at Google. There is Jack Dorsey, who was an Audio employee, which was the company that spun off Twitter. But then there's also Noah Glass, who actually started Audio, and Twitter came out of Audio. And so any article that you read must include all these 4 names, and Noah Glass seems to be the name that is the least remembered and the most forgotten, but seems to be probably the heart and soul of what Twitter has been since its inception. So there is this article from Business Insider. All the pages that I show here I will include in your notes here on Blackboard. So Twitter started by a bunch of people. Mostly, I would say all of them had different ideas in their head of what Twitter was at the time and what they felt Twitter uh, could be. So in fact, if we go here, there's a little quote here. Ev Williams told Jack Dorsey he had to chill out with the deluge of media he was doing. It's bad for the company, Ev said. It's sending the wrong message. That's Biz Stone, sat between them watching like a spectator at a tennis match. But I invented Twitter, Jack said. Which is false, by the way. No, you didn't invent Twitter, Ev replied. I didn't invent Twitter either. Neither did Biz. People don't invent things on the internet. They simply expand on an idea that already exists. So that's an interesting insight into the start of Twitter, but even what Twitter could be. Jack Dorsey, who ended up taking control of Twitter from Ev Williams, had a totally different idea of what Twitter was or could be than the gentleman that many people regard as the true founder of Twitter, who is Noah Glass. Everyone seems to bring a different idea into what Twitter was. So anyways, that's a little bit of history of Twitter. I highly recommend you read this article. It's 6 pages or so, and it's really, really good. Let's watch this video. Twitter in plain English.
So, what are you doing? It's one of the first questions we often ask friends and family. Even if the answer is just mowing the lawn or cooking dinner, it's interesting to us. It makes us feel connected and a part of each other's lives. Unfortunately, most of our day-to-day lives are hidden from people that care. Of course, we have email and blogs and phones to keep us connected, but you wouldn't send an email to a friend to tell them you're having coffee. Your friend doesn't need to know that. But what about people that want to know about the little things that happen in your life? Real life happens between blog posts and emails, and now there's a way to share. This is Twitter in plain English. Thanks to Twitter, it's possible to share short, bite-sized updates about your life and follow the updates of people that matter to you via the web. Here's how it works. Meet Carla. She's addicted to her mobile phone, reads blogs every day, and has contacts all over the world. She heard about Twitter and was skeptical. After some of her friends couldn't stop talking about it, she gave it a try. She signed up for free and saw that Twitter pages look a little like blogs with very short posts. Each page is personal and has updates from friends. She got started by looking up her friends on Twitter.com. After finding a few, she clicked follow to start seeing their updates on her Twitter page. Within hours, she began to see a different side of people she chose to follow. She didn't know that Steven in Seattle was a baseball fan, or that Julia in London was reading a new investment book. The little messages from Twitter painted a picture of her friends, family, and coworkers that she'd never seen before. It was the real world. Soon, she became a fan of Twitter and posted updates every day. Her friends followed her updates and learned that she recently discovered a passion for Van Halen. They could see Carla's life between blog posts and emails. For Carla, Twitter worked because it was simple. The updates were always short, under 140 characters. Plus, she could post updates and follow her friends using the Twitter website, software on her browser, a mobile phone, or instant messages. By asking members to answer the question, "What are you doing?" Carla found that Twitter brought her closer to people that matter to her, 140 characters at a time. Find out what your friends are doing at twitter.com. I'm Lee Lefevre, and this has been Twitter in plain English on the Common Craft Show.
So that was a very popular video, obviously back in 2008, on what is Twitter. So really, Twitter is a microblogging platform that allows not just people to connect with other people, but now brands to connect with people and people to connect with brands. Those of you who are in the live version of this course had an opportunity to see Greg Tilston, who is a social media global manager for Flight Center Worldwide. They use Twitter a lot for customer service and for real-time customer service. So a lot of companies use it for that. A lot of companies use it for promotion. Air Canada recently took to Twitter to defend itself in regards to helping RCMP officers fly to Halifax this past week. So a lot of companies now are utilizing it, and how they're utilizing. We'll talk a little bit about that today. There is a 7-week course that I teach in the fall that goes into in depth about utilizing Twitter for business, or Twitter marketing, it's called. So, highly recommend that if you are doing this certificate, to enroll in that class, and I look forward to instructing you there. But let's move forward and talk about Twitter in Canada. So this is a recent article by itbusiness.ca. Full disclosure, I contribute to this publication on a non-paying basis. So I'm what is considered a community blogger. So there's a company called eMarketer that publishes reports on a very timely basis, very often. And so recently they talked about Twitter users and penetration in Canada. So in 2014, Twitter is expecting in Canada that the number of users are going to jump almost 30%, and that Canada will be, by the end of this year, at almost 21% penetration in the market. So one out of five, more than 1 out of 5 Canadians will be on Twitter, or a total of 5.6 million monthly active users, which would be second only to the UK, which has a 27% penetration, which is more than 1 in 4, almost 1 in 3. So eMarketer did this study, and let's go through some of the numbers here. So in 2012, Twitter users in Canada were 3.3 million, expected to be at the end of this year 5.6, and growing to the end of 2018 to 8.7. So you can see the growth there. And while the growth numbers start to decline, the total numbers obviously are increasing. So that's very, very interesting. So some interesting facts here. Beyond the U.S., the jump in the number of Canadian Twitter users beats out the worldwide average. Worldwide, Twitter is estimated that it has 255 million monthly active users, not ones who are non-active, obviously. So there's some insights and some reasons why Canadians are getting more involved with Twitter. So Paul Briggs, who is the Canadian marketing analyst for eMarketer, has stated some facts that are in this particular article. So number one, Canadian consumers tend to be very digitally inclined. So it's less onerous for them to go from like Facebook to Twitter, or from Pinterest to Twitter. It seems it's more natural. Much of Canada's population also lives in urban areas. I think it's 70% of Canada lives within 100 kilometers of the U.S., so we're in a very concentrated area, which makes us very urban. So that is also true. So much of the population is also active on Twitter. People live in urban areas. And another reason is that Canadians are actually adopting smartphone usage at very high levels. And so the access to tools such as Twitter and other mobile applications or social applications, it's just easier to use these things on the go, and tools and platforms like Twitter. A lot of people are using these platforms on the go. Also, Twitter is in pop culture big time. Any award show, I just led off this conversation with the World Cup video. Twitter's playing a big role in that, and I'll share some things that they're doing as well. But pop culture consciousness, we all remember the selfie that was taken at the Academy Awards by Ellen DeGeneres. So we see it all over the place. Obviously, Twitter has set up offices in Canada and are very active. For those of you who are sports fans, you also probably saw the We the North hashtag during the Raptors in the NBA playoffs, as well as um, the hashtag that was uh, prevalent during the Winter Olympics. We are winter. So Twitter is in the subconscious of Canadians as well as in the consciousness of pop culture users as well. Now, there's a lot of terminology around Twitter. Um, hashtags. Hashtags go to denote a topic or a subject, a online chat that is taking place where people can follow a hashtag within Twitter's search engine, so that you'll see tweets with that particular hashtag. Some people have asked, if it's hashtag politics, why not just follow the word politics? Because people might be using the word politics in their content, but people are using hashtag politics, are using that on purpose to participate, listen, and contribute to a ongoing conversation about politics. We have the @ sign, which comes before a username. So my username is @Kareem Kanji. And so when you put @username, the message goes to that person in their account. It is not a private message, but a public message that can be searched for. There are tons of um, terms here, but very quickly, obviously an avatar is your profile picture. What else? Direct message, also known as a DM. You can send a direct message or a private message or simply a message, which is basically private messages. It's almost like sending an SMS, but via Twitter as a platform. And it's private between the sender and the recipient. These tweets obviously are not publicly available to people searching on the Twitter search engine. And usually you send them putting a D and then use space username, or DM space username, or if you're on Twitter, there's a opportunity for you just to send a direct message to somebody by a click of a button. DM again, direct message. You can set email notifications to receive notifications if someone has mentioned you or DM'd you, or followed you, or or favorited a tweet of yours. FF or hashtag FF or hashtag Follow Friday is a long and old um, suggestion, hashtag suggestion that people on Twitter tweet out to suggest that you need to follow that person. So I might do hashtag Blue Jays, or actually hashtag Follow Friday. Follow Friday @Blue Jays for the best team in the American League East. That's a really bad example. But people who follow the hashtag FF or hashtag Follow Friday want to see what suggestions people have for other Twitter accounts to follow. You can obviously follow people. So on Facebook, it's you like people, or you like brands. On Twitter, it's all about following. And because you are following people, or people following you, you have a follower count. Obviously, as a follower, someone's following you, and you also have, so people who follow you are following, or you could also follow people as well. All right, let's see what else is here. Your handle is basically your Twitter account, @Kareem Kanji. HT means hat tips, so you send out a tip, but really you got the information from someone else. You might hat tip somebody. So I might say, hey, Twitter just announced a brand new feature. Hat tip IT business. Hat tip @IT business CA. Something like that. Lists are very interesting. People are creating lists on Twitter, which are curated groups of other Twitter users used to tie specific individuals into a group. So You might want to put, so there might be this particular class. I might follow all of you and put those of you who are listening to my voice into a George Brown social media marketing class list. So I can open up that list on Twitter or any other Twitter client or software program and follow a specific list. So I might follow 1,000 people, but there might be 100 people total, or actually there's probably 150 people total within this uh, joint class. And so I can follow that list so that I mute out the conversations that are happening elsewhere. At mention, again, talked about that. At username, at mention is the same thing. MT is a modified tweet, very similar to an RT, which is a retweet, which is also very similar to which could be very similar to a hat tip. Let's see. Oh, overheard. You might see people putting overheard in the office. I love Microsoft Word. Something like that. Promoted tweets. So promoted tweets are tweets that selected businesses have paid to promote their particular tweet to show up at the top of a search result on Twitter. So that's where the business side of things now starts to come into play. Where brands and actually people now, because it's a self-serve platform, can now say, I want to promote this tweet, or I want a particular tweet to show up in the newsfeed of certain types of people, or in the news, or in the search results of what people are searching for. So I remember during the Raptors playoff, if I did a search on anything related to basketball or sports, I'd get very specific brands advertising to basketball fans about their products and services. You can reply to people, so someone sends a tweet that mentions you, click on the reply button in Twitter to reply to somebody, and that message automatically starts off with at username, whatever that person's username is. Again, a retweet is a tweet by another user that's been forwarded, that was initially created by somebody, or to retweet someone is to see their message and going, oh, I need to forward this off to people. And so you automatically retweet it and it gets sent out. So that is a bunch of Twitter acronyms and some terminology. Twitter is this. So here's my Twitter. So basically when you want to sign up to Twitter, you just go to twitter.com, register via putting in your email address, creating a username and a password. It will then ask you to create a cover photo, which is this part up here, and this here is your avatar. It'll ask you to create a bio. Here's my bio. That is not when I started on Twitter, by the way. It'll ask you to plug in your location. So if you plug in Toronto, or you can plug in anything you want to. You can also plug in any URL that you have. This one, it happens to be my blog, and automatically it will tell you when you started. So I started on Twitter. At Kareem Kanji was born at 10:54 a.m. on April the 8th, 2008, which doesn't seem too long ago, but that is quite some time ago now in social media time. You'll see I have photos and videos here. Wow, almost 900. Didn't realize that. So these are all tweets that I have sent out that include some sort of rich media. So when you go to twitter.com, when you log in, you can go to me, which is this right here, and this is the timeline of my tweets that have gone out. So you'll see 30 minutes ago I sent out this tweet. 32 years ago today, E.T. premiered in theaters. 6 minutes ago I sent out this tweet, which actually came automatically from me creating a blog post. So Twitter hopes to dominate World Cup, so I use hashtag World Cup because I want this particular piece of content to be searchable by those who are searching for World Cup. So if I wanted to reply to this, if this wasn't me, this is the reply button. This icon means to retweet it. Obviously I can't retweet my own tweet. Ignore this. I happen to have a buffer account, so that icon shows up. This is to favorite it, so I can favorite this. That basically saves. There's a folder that has all my saved content, and it's not just my content. I can save anyone's content. I can also delete my own tweets and more. That more, I can share this tweet via email. I could have this tweet embedded, and I could also pin tweets as well. So let me pin this one, and here's what happens. That tweet, which was number 2, will now show up. If we click view now, will now show up as number 1, and it will stay there until I unpin it. So I can click here again, oops, click here, and I can unpin this from the profile page. On Facebook, pinned content stays up for a week. Not too sure on how long it stays up on Twitter. So because I have this link here, this link activates Twitter to show some more content. So this is actual blog post that I wrote, and because that that link goes to a blog post, Twitter is showing up some media from there. So here's the first sentences, and here is a photo that I have within that blog post. So let's move on here. Again, I tweeted this out. I mentioned somebody. Stratfest is a Stratford festival. I also mentioned in this particular tweet Ford and Ford Canada, because the content within this link here talks about a Ford car. You'll also see I used the hashtag Cub Scouts to show a photo. See what else I can show you. So here's a retweet that I did. So ClearFit, which is a company in Toronto, tweeted out something. I happened to many years ago write an article about them. They knew about it already, but maybe they were just doing some searching for some content. They found this article that I wrote, and they decided to tweet it out. Obviously, because they mentioned me, I got a notification, and I said, hey, let me retweet that. Okay, so what I want to do here is, so yeah, I tweet a lot, 43,662 tweets. I follow 5,370 people. Obviously, I don't follow them actively. I probably have an active list. I actually have a list of about 20 people that I follow specifically. And I use a platform called Hootsuite. There's Hootsuite, there's TweetDeck, and there's others. And so in one of my columns, I have this list of 20 people. So I only see the lists. I only see the tweets of the 20 people that are on this particular list that I've created. There are 5,400 plus people that follow me, and I have favorited 288 tweets. And in fact, if I click on here, I will see the tweets that I have favorited. So here are tweets that I favorited. I do not know why I favorited that tweet. Let me unfavorite it. So here's some tweets that I favorited. 6 research-backed ways to get more followers on Facebook and Twitter. So these are tweets that I want to sort of store or bookmark, and I want to be able to access them very quickly. I will go to my favorites and find out where they are. Okay, so here's my list. So if I click on lists, under the more category, something's happening yet. So I created this must follow list. There's 19 people on there. It's locked, so it's private. So I can't show you guys, but I might follow 5,300 plus people, but I really religiously follow these 19 people. And the rest, I'll go into for serendipity purposes, just to see, hey, is there anything that I'm not really searching for that I might find interesting here? Well, let me take a peek, right? But I also happen to be a member of a member of all of these lists that other people have created. So they have added me on their list. I haven't subscribed to their list. That's not how this works. I'm a member of the list because people like Emily, Trent Spotter, George Brown Con Ed, Ali Jedley, Danielle Rossi, and so on and so forth have created a list and have added me. So here I am. Wow, I am a interesting. Never knew I was on the list of Walmart. That seems to me to be a spam account. Okay, so here's an example of Twitter lists. That's very interesting. Okay, so let's go up. So that's me, but if I go to home, this is the home, and so in the home is everything. Here's my profile in the corner. Here's trends that are happening in Canada. And here are the tweets of the 5,000, was it, or 4,000 plus people that I follow. You can see that when you embed a photo in there from Twitter, so you take a photo with your mobile phone and you send that photo specifically out to Twitter, that photo shows up like this. Rather than I shared a photo via Instagram and that photo doesn't show up. So right here, this is a photo, and I have to click on it to actually see it. So Instagram and Twitter are fighting each other. Otherwise, they would show the photo here. Okay, so they're making it hard. So people who want a great Twitter experience will say, I'm not going to use Instagram to share on Twitter. I'll use Twitter to share on Twitter, and Twitter likes that. So that's why these organizations do this sort of stuff. Okay. So this is my Twitter account. If you have any questions on that, please ask away by emailing me. I was basically wanted to show you some tweets. So, I mean, you've got tweets like this, which is an interesting fact. Neil Pasricha, who is at 1000 Awesome, he wrote the book, The 1000 Things to Do, or Daily 1000. And so he shares some of those awesome things. People are sharing sunsets. People are sharing what's going on in baseball. People are sharing about World Cup stuff. People are just sharing content, sharing photos and other content. Okay, so this is what happens. Some people spam you about what's going on. Medium. That's the other company that Ev Williams is a founder of. That's a brand new one. Okay, so tweets. Tweets could be anything. I get tweets by people, tweets by brands. Not a lot of tweets by brands. So try not to follow brands. If I'm interested in connecting with a brand, I'll find out what their Twitter handle is and follow them. Okay, so here's some interesting things. So, in fact, let me see if I can. Yeah, okay. I'll just leave that alone. All right, so Twitter chats. What are Twitter chats? Twitter chats are opportunities really for people to get together and discuss about certain things that are going on based on like interest. So, for example, let's randomly go here. And here's a tweet chat. Hashtag CAHPSA. Stands for California Health Professional Student Alliance. They're in the healthcare industry. Here's their bio. So here it says California Health Professional Student Alliance. That's why I know it's there. This is the person who's organized it at Kappa Fellow. This particular tweet chat happens on Sundays between 7 and 8 p.m. So if you happen to be in the Pacific time zone between 7 and 8 p.m. and you happen to be interested or part of the California Health Professional Students Alliance, you might start following this hashtag. I'll show you how that's done. You just hashtag, so you just copy this, go into Twitter, go into the search bar, search for that. You'll see results for it. The top ones, we want to go to all. So if it was Sunday between 7 and 8, I would click here and I would start to follow and participate in this conversation. Okay, but obviously it's not Sunday 7 8, so it doesn't happen now. Now, a word to the wise that some of this is an ongoing public document, so people will add things, but if they've stopped doing chats, they might not delete them. Okay? So that is what a tweet chat is. And it's interesting, tweet chats can do a lot of things. They can help you become noticed as a thought leader. They can help you learn stuff, help you to meet people. There's also tweet chats that don't have any time limits. So there's a continuous ongoing tweet chat around Ontario politics. Obviously, we have an election happening on the day that this video will be released. And so if you're interested in that sort of stuff, you could go into the search bar, hashtag ONPoly, Ontario Politics, click enter, and get the results for ONPoly. So you'll see the top ones, top meaning, I guess ones that are getting lots of engagement, or you can go to all, which would give you the most recent up-to-date tweets in order of them coming, with the latest one being at the top. So 39 seconds ago, somebody tweeted out, "Tomorrow we vote. Owen Polly, vote for change, save Ontario." Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Right, so some interesting tweets, people tweeting that care about what's going on in their province. For those of you who are in the city where George Brown is, there's also TO Poly for Toronto politics, and very similar. This is an ongoing chat that happens without borders or time frames, people talking about Toronto politics. Okay, so that's there. So we've talked about Twitter. I've shown you my profile, tweet chats, and let's talk about some homework. Oh, I showed you this video already. So some different things that Twitter is doing, in fact, to increase engagement. You'll notice when I go to me, click on me when I'm logged in as myself, you will see, actually not me, let's go to home. On the, still waiting, here we go. When I go right to the top, you'll see this column on the right. This is Twitter's way of attempting to dominate the second screen during the World Cup, which is going to be going on for a month plus. So you log in and boom, this is the first thing you see at twitter.com when you're logged in on the right hand side. So they're telling you these are the matches coming up. You can follow the hashtag World Cup, or you can follow specific games that are going on, and you could also choose what teams you want to follow. So for example, on Thursday 4 p.m. if I click on this, I will come to the Brazil-Croatia game page. And here we are. So here's a game page, so people are already tweeting about it. Some Croatian players on Twitter, Brazil players on Twitter, photos and videos. And so this is a very interesting experience if all you want to follow is this particular matchup. Very, very interesting. And you could also create who you want to follow. And so you can create a side. So let's say that I want to follow. Okay, get started less than a second. Oh, hold on. I don't think it recognizes that this is me. Okay, choose your side. Next. Okay. Twitter seems to be broken. Anyways, let's ignore that. Um, so how is Twitter impacting the way that businesses um, are growing or are marketing, and what can you do with Twitter? So let's quickly go to an article that I have favorited that talks about a little bit about how to get more followers on Twitter, but really it's all about engagement and how do you drive people from Twitter to your business. And it starts with being engaging. And so if you can understand that this research, which was how to get more followers on Twitter, Facebook, G+, and more, if you follow the same thought process, you will automatically be able to understand how do I get people from Twitter to go to my website, or how do I get them from interacting with me on Twitter to actually making an impact in what it is that I do. So if you are a business, a brand, a charity, a nonprofit, or whatever the case may be, these things still speak to you. Okay? So really, these are 10 specific ways um, of getting content. Okay? Or of getting more followers. Okay? So, number one, post great content. Post content that is timely, informative, shareable, and interesting. So obviously, posting stuff about the World Cup over the next month is going to be timely. But if everyone's going to be posting World Cup stuff, what's going to set you apart? Maybe you are selling vacuum cleaners. Well, how can you tie in selling vacuum cleaners with the World Cup? The easy answer is to say, well, I can't. The harder and more creative answer is, yes, I can, and here's how. And then try to figure it out on what you can do. Right? Number two, write a professional bio in your Twitter account, especially if you are a brand or if you're trying to, retain some sort of return on investment. Again, that ROI is determined by you. Is that a dollar amount, or is it something else? Use hashtags to attract attention to you. This placing a widget on your blog is basically talking about when people visit your blog, you can show them that you have a Twitter account and that you're active on there. So here's my blog, and this is a widget here, a Twitter widget with my tweets. People see that when they visit my blog, they go, oh, Kareem's on Twitter, let me follow him. Okay, oh, that's interesting. I'm reading about the Twitter book, but now he's also talking about clout. Oh, he's talking about Ford. Interesting. Okay. Um, here we are. Okay, engage with others. Don't just push, push, push content. Engage. It's a push pull. It's a conversation. Remember, pretend you're that person in the bar and you just happen to be a real estate agent. You do not go in and talk about your listings or find out who's willing to sell their house. You go in wanting to have a great time and great conversations with people. Okay? Number six, create shareable content. I believe that is in relation as well to number one. It's not only great, but it's got to be shareable. If you find that other people have great content, share theirs, retweet. If you know that certain people happen to be influencers, within your industry, reach out to them, follow them, retweet them, try to have conversations with them so that they remember you, and be honest about it, and be normal about it. Stay active. The worst thing you can do is, start, stop, start, stop, start, and stop. Okay, that wastes gas when you're driving. It also wastes energy when you're doing it on Twitter. Stay active. It's very simple. It doesn't take time to pull out your phone and tweet something, or sit down at your desk and tweet something, or to use tools like Buffer or Hootsuite to sit down and schedule a bunch of tweets that can go out. And obviously, make sure you're following other users. Okay? So, this is a very interesting article as well that I will, of course, make sure that I share with all of you. Okay? So, these are ways, this is Twitter, these are ways that you could use it and translate that to how you use it for your particular brand. And look forward to possibly seeing some of you in the Twitter marketing class after the summer, in the fall. And I will, of course, do an in-class version and possibly do an online version of that as well. Many of you know this is my first time doing an online class. So we have some homework for you. So for those of you who are taking the in-class version, your homework will be specific to this class, will be to continue having these conversations that we're having within our Facebook discussion group. And for those of you who are in the online version of this class, please refer to Blackboard for your assignments. There is a quick assignment there, and there's also the discussion board there as well. So thank you so much for participating with me, and I hope that you all have a great weekend, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Bye-bye.